Daniel squeezed her hand. Let them hunt. They cannot catch what has already awakened. The chains are broken, and they will never be whole again. Outside, the night sky burned with stars. The servants stood together for the first time. Trembling but united, they looked at Daniel, at Lyra. Waiting for what came next, Daniel raised his voice. Strong and steady, you are free. Do not forget this moment. Do not bow again. The galaxy will try to deny you, but tonight proves the truth. You are alive, you are more than servants. You are people. Their voices rose in answer. Not whispers anymore, but shouts. The sound carried through the cold streets of Vera, shaking the towers, echoing into the night. The breaking chains had begun, and nothing in the galaxy could silence them again. The night after the chains were broken, the city of Vera was not the same. The nobles locked themselves in their shining towers. The guards marched through the streets with heavy steps. Alarms echoed from every corner. Yet for the first time, the servants did not bow. They did not hide their eyes. They walked with trembling shoulders. But they walked together. Daniel stood among them, his heart heavy but proud. He knew the danger was greater than ever, but he also knew something far stronger had awakened. A fire once hidden now burned in the hearts of the maids. They were no longer silent tools. They were voices, they were people. Lyra walked at his side, her silver hair glowing faintly in the starlight. She had once whispered words like a frightened child, but now her steps were firm. Her glowing eyes no longer looked at the ground. They looked forward. Her hand gripped Daniel's tightly, and he felt the strength of her choice. In the shadows of an abandoned market, Daniel gathered them. Dozens of servants who had joined in the cry of rebellion. They sat in silence at first. Unsure, afraid, but waiting, Daniel raised his voice. You are not numbers anymore. You are not tools tonight, you have proven it. You stood, you spoke, and the world heard you. The servants shifted uneasily. One whispered, they will punish us all, they will kill us. Another trembled. We have no weapons, no homes, no names. Daniel nodded. Yes, they will try, but hear me. Do not forget what you did tonight. They told you that you could never love. Never cry, never dream, and yet here you stand. With tears, with hope, with fire in your hearts. You have already won the first battle. The silence broke, murmurs spread. They looked at each other not as strangers, but as brothers and sisters. They saw themselves as more than servants for the first time. Lyra stepped forward, her voice strong. We are alive, and she said. Her voice trembled but did not fall. We are not property. We are people. The words spread like lightning. The servants repeated them louder each time. We are alive. We are people. Their cries echoed in the night, shaking the walls of the city, but Daniel knew they could not stay here. The nobles would send armies soon. The rebellion would be crushed if they did not move. He whispered to Lyra, we must leave the city. We must carry this fire to others. If it stays here, they will smother it, but if it spreads, the galaxy will change forever. Her eyes widened. To others, she whispered, there are more like us. Daniel nodded. Yes, on every world, in every hall, there are servants like you. They wait in silence, they hide their tears. But when they hear your voice, when they hear you live, they will rise too. Her breath shook, but her eyes glowed with determination. Then we must go. The servants followed them through secret alleys, slipping past guards. Daniel led them out toward the edges of the city where the towers no longer reached the stars. The night was cold, but the fire in their hearts was warmer than any sun at dawn. They stopped by the river that cut through the desert plains. The water shimmered like glass for the first time. The servants knelt not in obedience but in freedom. They touched the water with their hands, gasping at the chill, laughing softly. Tears rolled down their faces, glowing like jewels in the morning light. Lyra turned to Daniel, her voice breaking. I never thought I would laugh. I never thought I would live, but you gave us this. Daniel shook his head. No, Lyra. You gave yourself this. I only reminded you what was already inside you. The servants gathered around. Waiting for his words, Daniel lifted his voice. This is only the beginning. The nobles will call you rebels. They will call you broken. They will call you dangerous. But do not believe their lies. You are free. You are alive. You are loved. The words sank into their hearts. For many, it was the first time they had ever heard such things. For the first time, they believed them. Lyra stepped beside him, her voice strong. We are no longer servants. We are a people. We will not bow again. The servants shouted with her, their voices filling the air. We will not bow again. The sound rolled like thunder across the plains. It was not just defiance, it was destiny. Daniel looked at Lyra and saw the future in her glowing eyes. She was not just a maid anymore, she was a leader, she was hope. He knew that one day the galaxy would remember her name. Lyra, the first servant who dared to cry, the first who dared to rise. The rebellion of one city had begun. But the story of a new people had been born. They would spread their fire to every corner of the stars, and behind them always would be the memory of one human who chose to see them not as tools, not as property, but as family. As the sun rose over Vera, Daniel whispered to Lyra, "This is your destiny now, not as my servant, not even as my secret, but as yourself, free, alive forever," she smiled. A smile that no chains could ever erase. Her voice was soft but filled with power. "Then let us walk it together." And so they did. The human and the maid, the one who believed and the one who became. Together they stepped into the dawn of a new destiny. A destiny that would change the galaxy forever. The galaxy might see the alien maids as tools, but Daniel now saw an army waiting to feel, waiting to rise, and deep inside he knew one day soon. The punishment hall would not break them. It would break their masters. The memory of the punishment hall burned inside Daniel's chest. He could not forget the lifeless body of the maid dragged away. He could not forget the sound of her cry, the cruel laughter of the nobles. The way the servants bowed their heads in silence that night had changed him. He was no longer a visitor, no longer just an observer. He was a man carrying a fire he could not put out. When Daniel entered Lyra's chamber again, he found her sitting in the corner, her knees drawn to her chest, her glowing eyes lifted at the sound of the door. And fear flashed across her face, but when she saw him, it softened into something else, trust. "You came back," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I will always come back," Daniel said. Kneeling beside her, he touched her hand gently. "But listen, Lyra, we cannot stay like this. If they see even a single tear again, they will take you, and I will lose you." Her breath caught. "Then you must go," she whispered quickly. "Leave this city. Leave me. If you stay, they will destroy us both." Daniel shook his head. "No." His voice was quiet but firm. "I will not leave you. I cannot. You showed me something real. You made me see the truth. And the truth cannot be abandoned." Lyra trembled. "But what can we do?" she whispered. "We are only servants." "We cannot fight." Daniel leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You are not only servants. You are alive. You are many. If one of you can feel, then others can too. Maybe they are hiding. Maybe they are afraid. But they are there, and together you are not weak. Together, you are strong." Her glowing eyes widened. "Strong," she repeated softly. The word tasted new, almost impossible. "Yes," Daniel whispered, "and I will help you. We will not fight with weapons, not yet. We will fight with something greater. We will fight with hope." That night, Daniel began to teach Lyra in secret. He told her about human stories, about how even the weakest had risen against tyrants, about slaves who broke their chains, about voices that once seemed powerless but changed worlds. Lyra listened with wide eyes, her trembling hands slowly growing steady. He taught her laughter. He told her jokes from Earth, simple, foolish ones, but enough to make her lips curve into a small, awkward smile. He told her about music, tapping a soft rhythm against the floor, and she tapped back, shy at first, then bolder. Every lesson was dangerous, every whisper was rebellion. Soon other maids began to notice. Daniel saw it in their eyes when he passed them in the corridors. Tiny flickers, small sparks. Some looked away quickly, afraid, but some lingered, watching him with silent questions. Lyra whispered to him, "They see us, they wonder." Daniel nodded. "Then we will show them." One evening, he brought a piece of bread he had hidden under his coat. In the chamber, he broke it in half and handed it to Lyra. "Eat," he said. She hesitated. "Servants eat only when given food. It is not allowed." "It is allowed now," Daniel whispered, pressing it into her hand. "Because you choose it." Her fingers shook as she lifted it to her lips. The first bite was slow, uncertain, but then her eyes widened. Her glowing tears fell. "It tastes warm," she whispered. She had eaten before, but never by choice, never as a free act. That taste was freedom. The next night, Daniel found a way to pass a piece to another maid. He saw the same trembling, the same shock, the same tears. Words spread quietly like a secret flame. A smile here, a whisper there, every small act was dangerous, but it grew. Lyra whispered one night. They are beginning to change. Daniel, they whisper to me, they ask me what you say. They ask me about freedom. Daniel's chest swelled with hope. Good, he whispered, it begins with whispers, but one day, it will be shouts. Still the danger was never far. Guards walked the halls more often. Nobles watched their servants with sharper eyes. Daniel felt it every time he entered the chamber. He knew they could be discovered at any moment. But the plan had already taken root. The fire could not be stopped one night. Daniel traced a line in the dust on the floor with his finger. This is the hall, he whispered. And these are the guards. He placed small stones to mark their positions. Lyra leaned close, watching. This is where they keep the records, Daniel continued. Names, numbers, orders, if we can destroy those, you will no longer be numbers, you will be free. Lyra's hands trembled. But the punishment? Daniel placed a finger gently against her lips. The punishment cannot erase the truth. The punishment only works if you stay afraid, but if you rise together, they cannot stop all of you. Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She whispered, You believe in us? Daniel nodded. More than you believe in yourselves. For the first time, she smiled fully, not shaky, not broken, but real. Her silver hair fell across her face as she whispered, Then maybe I can believe too. That night, as they sat close in the silence of the chamber, the plan of rebellion was born. It was not loud, not strong yet, but it was alive and somewhere in the dark. Daniel felt the galaxy shifting. The plan of rebellion was still only a whisper, but whispers had power. Daniel and Lyra met in secret each night, speaking softly so no guard would hear. Every word was dangerous, yet every word was life. He taught her courage. She taught him patience. Together they planted hope where no one thought it could grow. But hope could not stay hidden forever. The nobles grew restless. Rumors spread among them that some servants were acting strangely. They noticed hesitation in the maids, faint tremors in their hands, faint delays in their steps. Something was changing, and the masters did not like it. One evening, Daniel walked the streets and felt the shift in the air. Guards marched more often. Their glowing staffs hummed louder than usual. The city felt colder, sharper. He hurried to Lyra's chamber, his chest tight with dread. When he pushed the door open, he saw her waiting. Her silver hair fell across her face, but her glowing eyes were fierce. She whispered quickly, Daniel, they took 2 more today. They vanished into the punishment hall, I fear. Her voice cracked. I fear they will come for me next. Daniel knelt beside her, holding her hands. Then we cannot wait. Lyra, the time has come. If they take you, I will never forgive myself. We must act now. Her eyes widened with fear. But how? We have nothing. No weapons, no strength. Daniel shook his head. You have more than weapons, you have each other. You have voices, you have truth, and once you speak together, their chains will break. The next night, Daniel moved through the servant corridors, whispering to those who dared to look at him. He saw it in their eyes, fear mixed with curiosity. Some lowered their heads, afraid to answer, but some listened. One maid whispered back, We cannot, but we want to. Another trembled as she asked, Will they kill us all? Daniel's voice was steady. Not if you rise together, not if you remember you are alive. They cannot silence all of you, not forever, slowly, like the spreading of fire through dry grass. The whispers grew. Lyra was no longer alone. She was no longer the only one who dared to feel. There were others hidden, waiting, and now they began to step forward. The turning point came sooner than Daniel expected.
One night in the grand hall, a noble ordered a maid to kneel lower.
She hesitated just for a moment. The noble struck her across the face. Demanding obedience, the hall fell silent. All eyes on the trembling servant. Daniel's breath caught. He waited for her to break, to bow again, but instead she lifted her chin. Her glowing eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, No. The word echoed like thunder. The nobles gasped, the guards froze, and then something even greater happened. Another maid stepped forward and whispered, No. Then another louder, No. The sound spread, rising, dozens of voices joining together. The nobles shouted for silence, but the servants kept speaking. Their voices trembling but strong. We feel, we live, we are not property. Daniel's heart pounded. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. They are alive, they are not tools, they are not machines. They are your equals, the nobles roared in fury. Guards rushed forward, raising their glowing staffs. Daniel stood firm, but before they could strike, the servants moved for the first time. They disobeyed together. They grabbed the staffs. They pushed back. They cried out, their voices shaking the hall. Chains broke, not with keys, but with courage. The sound of rebellion filled the air. Sharp and wild, the nobles screamed for control. But control was slipping through their hands. Lyra rushed to Daniel's side. Her eyes glowing brighter than ever, she whispered fiercely, "You were right, Daniel, we are strong. Together we are strong." He gripped her hand, his chest burning with pride. "This is only the beginning, Lyra. Do not stop. No matter what." The hall erupted into chaos. Guards fell, nobles fled. The servants who once stood silent now roared like thunder. Their tears glowed, their cries filled the air. No longer tools, no longer numbers, they were breaking free. But freedom always carried a price as Daniel led them out of the hall. He heard the distant alarm echoing across the city. More guards would come, stronger and more ruthless. The nobles would not give up their power easily. The rebellion had begun. But survival was not guaranteed. Lyra looked at him, her face glowing with both fear and hope. "They will hunt us now," she whispered. He was no longer just a traveler. He had become part of something forbidden, something dangerous. He had seen a glimpse of emotion, and there was no turning back. The next night, Daniel returned to the quiet chambers. His steps were careful, his heart heavy with both fear and hope. He could not stop thinking of the maid's trembling voice. That one forbidden word, freedom, it echoed inside him again and again. He had never thought he would hear it from her lips. When he reached her door, he paused, listening. The corridor was silent, the other maids sitting still in their rooms like statues of glass. Only her door was left slightly open, just as before. He pushed it gently, and there she was, her glowing eyes lifted. And when she saw him, something changed in her face. It was not a smile, not fully, but it was something softer, something alive. Daniel stepped inside, whispering, "I came back. I had to." She lowered her head, her voice barely audible. "You should not be here. If they find you, they will hurt you." He shook his head. "I don't care," he whispered. "I saw you. I saw the tears. I can't pretend it was nothing." For a moment, silence filled the room, then she whispered, "Why do you care? Humans do not live here. Humans do not own us. Why are you different?" Daniel took a deep breath. "Because you are alive," he said. "I don't know how or why, but I know it. You feel, you think, you dream. That means you are not a tool. You are not property. You are someone." Her glowing eyes widened. She trembled as if the words were too heavy, too dangerous. No one had ever called her someone before. She whispered, "If the others hear, they will report us. They are afraid. They do not want to vanish like the rest." Daniel leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Then tell me your name." She froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Finally, she shook her head. "We have no names. They did not give us any. We are numbers. I am 42. Daniel's chest tightened. "A number, that was all she had," he whispered softly. "Then I will give you a name." She blinked at him, confused. Daniel thought for a moment, then said, "Lyra, yes, that is your name now." Lyra, the word hung in the air, fragile but powerful. Her lips repeated it slowly. "Lyra." It sounded strange, yet warm, she whispered again, as if testing it. "Lyra." Then for the first time, something like light passed across her face. A shadow of a smile. Daniel felt his heart beat faster. He had done something no one else dared. He had given her identity. He had given her a bond. Night after night he returned, each time. They spoke in whispers, careful and secret. He told her about Earth, about oceans and forests, about rain that touched your skin like 1,000 tiny stars. She listened with wide eyes, as if drinking every word. She told him little in return, only fragments, how she and the others were raised in silence, taught to move, to serve, to obey. Any spark of feeling was punished, any hint of laughter erased. One night, Daniel brought her something small from the market, a flower, blue with silver edges, glowing faintly under the moonlight. He placed it in her hands, her fingers shook as she held it. Her eyes filled with something he had only seen in humans before, wonder. She whispered, "It is beautiful." Daniel smiled. "So are you," she gasped softly, her face lowered, glowing cheeks turning faintly brighter. She had never been spoken to like that. Not once in her life. For her, kindness was forbidden. But in his voice it sounded like truth. The bond between them grew, fragile but real. Every time he touched her hand, every time she whispered his name, he felt the walls between them breaking. She was no longer a silent servant, she was Lyra. And he was no longer a stranger. He was her secret, her only safe place, but danger followed them like a shadow. One evening, when Daniel left her chamber, he noticed another maid watching him. Her eyes glowed faintly, but her face was blank. She turned away quickly, yet Daniel's stomach tightened. Did she see too much? Did she know the next day? Whispers spread among the servants. A maid had been taken to the punishment hall again. Daniel asked Lyra, but she only lowered her head, her voice trembling. She laughed once. In front of the wrong person, Daniel's fists clenched. He wanted to break the chains, to smash the doors, but he knew rushing would destroy them both. Instead, he whispered, "Stay strong, Lyra. You are not alone anymore." That night, when she looked at him, her eyes filled with tears again. But this time they were not only of fear, they were also of trust. For the first time, she whispered his name, Daniel. Her voice cracked. Yet it was full of something deeper, something powerful. In that moment, the forbidden bond was sealed. It was no longer curiosity, no longer pity. It was connection, fragile, dangerous, but alive. And both of them knew, if the world discovered it, they would be hunted, yet neither cared anymore. Because for the first time in her life, Lyra was not just a servant, not just a number, she was someone. And Daniel had given her more than a name. He had given her a reason to hope. The days passed slowly, but the shadow of fear grew heavier around Daniel and Lyra. Their secret bond was fragile, hidden like a flame in the dark. Yet even the smallest spark could draw dangerous eyes. Daniel tried to stay calm, but one question haunted him. What happened to the maids who vanished? He did not have to wonder long, because one night he saw it with his own eyes. The nobles gathered in the main square, their long robes shimmering. Guards lined the edges, carrying staffs of glowing steel. The air smelled sharp, like burned metal. Daniel moved with the crowd, pretending to be only a curious traveler, but his chest tightened with dread. At the center stood a raised platform, cold and black like stone. On it knelt a maid, her silver hair tangled, her wrists bound in chains. Daniel's heart froze. Her glowing eyes were dim, filled with terror she tried to hide. She was no different from Lyra. She was someone, and she was about to be destroyed. The noble leader raised his voice. This servant dared to show what is forbidden. Emotion, the crowd murmured. Some angry, some amused. None felt pity, none except Daniel. He gritted his teeth as the noble continued. Our servants are perfect because they are empty. They serve without pain, without love, without rebellion. But when one breaks design, we remind them and all others of their place. The guard struck the maid across the back. She cried out. A sharp sound that tore through the silence. Daniel flinched. His fists clenched until his nails dug into his palms. Around him, the nobles only nodded, satisfied. The maid lifted her face, her voice trembling. Please, I didn't mean... But she never finished. A guard silenced her with another blow. Her body shook, her glowing tears staining the floor. Daniel could hardly breathe. His mind screamed to rush forward, to stop them. But his heart knew if he did, he would die, and worse. Lyra would be punished next. He forced himself to stay in the shadows. But his soul burned with rage. The punishment went on. Each strike meant not just for the maid, but for every servant watching. The nobles wanted fear. They wanted obedience carved into their bones. When it ended, the maid collapsed, silent, lifeless. The crowd dispersed as if nothing had happened. Her body was dragged away like trash. Daniel stood frozen long after the others left, his chest heavy with guilt. He whispered to himself, "This is what they face. This is what Lyra faces." His hands shook. His heart swore he could not let it happen again. That night he found Lyra in her chamber. She sat trembling in the dark as if she already knew. Her eyes lifted slowly, shining with fear. "They took her," she whispered, her voice cracked. "She was my sister." She laughed once, only once. Daniel's breath caught. He sank down beside her, his hand gently touching hers. She did not pull away, she only shook. "I told you," she whispered, "if they see me change, if they see me feel, they will take me too. I will vanish." Daniel clenched his jaw. "No," he said firmly. "You will not vanish. I will not let them." She shook her head, tears falling down her face. "You cannot fight them. They are many. They are strong. You are only one." He wiped her tears gently, whispering, "One is enough." one who refuses to accept their lies, one who sees the truth, one who believes you are alive. Lyra's hand tightened around his, trembling, her lips parted. Daniel. Why, because you deserve more, he whispered, his voice low but fierce. You deserve to feel, to laugh, to dream, to live. Her tears fell faster, but now they carried something more than fear. They carried hope. For the first time, she leaned forward, resting her forehead against his shoulder. Her body shook, but she let herself cry in his arms. Daniel held her close, his own eyes burning. In that moment, the bond between them grew stronger than ever. It was no longer hidden words, no longer soft glances. It was a promise, but promises brought danger. Because the punishment hall was not only for one maid, it was a warning. And the nobles would soon notice the change in Lyra, too. They would see her trembling hands, her glowing tears, her hesitation when she looked at him. Daniel knew their time was short. The world around them was merciless. Every night he walked through the city now, he saw the servants differently. Their silence was no longer emptiness, it was fear. Behind every blank face might hide another Lyra, another soul begging to live. And as he remembered the lifeless body dragged from the platform, Daniel swore in his heart. Never again. The punishment hall had shown him the truth. The nobles thought they had proven their power, but what they had truly done was awaken his rage. The human named Daniel stepped onto the shining streets of Vera, a world known for its wealth and cold beauty. The city looked alive with silver towers, glowing lights, and strange alien nobles dressed in long robes that shimmered like stars. But among them walked the servants, the alien maids. They wore the same plain clothes. Their heads bowed, their glowing eyes empty. They moved in perfect lines, carrying trays, opening doors, cleaning floors, never speaking unless ordered. Daniel had heard of them before. The Veran nobles said these maids were not truly alive. They were shaped by science, raised without hearts, trained without feelings. They were tools, not people. That was what everyone believed, but Daniel was human, and humans often saw what others ignored. When he watched them move, he felt a strange pain in his chest. They looked too much like living beings. Their silver hair fell softly over their faces. Their steps were graceful, yet their silence was heavy. It was the silence of chains. Inside the grand hall of a rich alien lord, Daniel saw them more closely. 10 maids stood at the sides of the room, their hands folded, eyes glowing faint blue. Each one watched with blank expression as nobles laughed and talked. One spilled wine on the floor, another quickly bent down to clean, not even lifting her face as the guests mocked her. The alien nobles did not see cruelty in this. To them it was normal. The maids were designed to obey, to never cry, never smile, never love. But Daniel felt something twist inside him. He thought to himself, if they were truly empty, why do their eyes look so tired, so heavy? As he watched, his gaze caught one maid in particular. She was standing near the doorway holding a silver tray. Her face looked the same as the others, calm and blank. But when Daniel looked directly into her eyes, he saw a flicker. It was quick, almost invisible. Her gaze trembled for just a moment, then lowered, but that single moment froze him. Could it be possible, he wondered? Did she just hesitate for the rest of the evening? Daniel could not stop glancing at her every time he did. She seemed to move a little differently, slower, as if she was aware of his attention. When a noble shouted at her for not pouring the drink fast enough, her hand shook ever so slightly. That should not happen. These maids were trained to be perfect, flawless, without fear. And yet she shook. Later that night, Daniel walked outside into the cold Veran air. The city was quiet now, the stars reflected in the glassy streets. But his mind was not quiet. The image of that maid's trembling hand would not leave him. He kept asking himself, did I imagine it? Or did she truly feel fear? He returned to the inn where travelers stayed. But even in his room he could not rest. The voices of the nobles echoed in his ears, calling the maids tools and property. But humans did not treat even machines this way. Daniel had grown up fixing old Earth robots. He knew the difference between a machine and a living being. And in that maid's eyes, for the first time, he thought he saw life. The next morning he walked again through the city. He saw the maids cleaning the shining roads, scrubbing the marble steps of the temples, carrying heavy boxes for the merchants. Always silent, always obedient, the people passed by without noticing. Some even kicked them out of the way if they slowed. Daniel clenched his fists. He wanted to shout at them, to ask how they could not see. But he stayed quiet because he was alone. When night came again, Daniel found himself back near the Lord's hall. He told himself it was curiosity, but deep inside he knew it was something more. He wanted to see her again, the maid with the trembling eyes. The hall was brighter than before. Music played, the aliens drank and laughed. The maids stood in their places. Daniel scanned each one quickly until he found her. There she was, standing at the edge of the light. Holding a golden jug, her movements were smooth, practiced. Yet Daniel swore her eyes moved toward him. Just for a second, the moment their gazes met. He felt a chill. It was not fear. It was connection. A bond he could not explain. Something impossible, something forbidden. He stepped back into the shadows, his heart racing. He realized something dangerous if the nobles ever saw what he saw. If they noticed a maid showing even a spark of emotion, they would destroy her. To them, feelings were a flaw, and flaws had to be erased. Daniel whispered to himself, "She is alive. I know it." And with that thought, a storm began to rise in his chest. He had no plan, no allies. But he knew one thing: he could not walk away. Because if she truly felt, even for a second, then everything the galaxy believed about the alien maids was a lie. Daniel could not forget the maid's trembling hand and her fleeting gaze. For days the image burned in his mind. He tried to tell himself it was nothing, just his imagination, but deep inside he knew better. He had seen something real, something the galaxy believed was impossible. One evening, unable to resist, Daniel returned to the great hall again. The nobles were hosting another feast. Their laughter and music echoed against the high walls. The maids moved quietly, carrying plates, filling glasses, cleaning spills. But Daniel's eyes searched only for her, the maid who had looked at him differently. He found her standing in the corner, holding a tray of crystal cups. She seemed no different from the rest, yet Daniel noticed her fingers tighten on the tray as if she was fighting to stay steady. He stepped closer, watching carefully. And then, for just a second, her lips parted. It was not a word, not yet, but it was almost like she wanted to speak. His heart pounded. He wanted to ask her name, to speak to her, but he knew the risk. If any noble saw him treat a maid like a person, he could be punished, or worse. And she would be destroyed still. Daniel's feet refused to move away. The night dragged on. The nobles drank too much. Boasting of their power, they mocked their servants, even making jokes about how they could never love. Never cry, never hope. Daniel clenched his jaw. His fists trembled under the table. Then suddenly, a goblet slipped from one noble's hand. Crashing to the floor, the maid rushed forward. Dropping to her knees, she picked up the broken glass with bare hands. The sharp edges cut her skin. A line of blue blood trickled down her palm. Daniel's eyes widened. She bled like any living creature. But the nobles only laughed. "She does not feel pain," one said. "It is only an error in the body, nothing more." Daniel's chest burned with anger. He wanted to shout, but then he froze, for in that moment, he saw her face twist just slightly, her eyes squeezed shut. Her lip trembled. That was not error, that was pain, that was emotion. She tried to hide it, lowering her head quickly. But Daniel had already seen. His breath caught in his throat. He whispered to himself, "You feel it, don't you?" When the nobles dismissed the servants at the end of the feast, Daniel followed quietly at a distance. The maids walked in silence through the cold corridors. Their feet made no sound on the polished floors. They were led to their chambers, dark, narrow rooms where they rested until their next order. Daniel slipped into the shadows, waiting. The guards passed by without noticing him. Slowly, carefully, he approached the row of chambers. Each one held a maid sitting still, eyes closed like statues. But one chamber door was not fully shut. He pushed it gently, and there she was, the same maid. Sitting alone in the corner, her tray was gone. Her hands were folded on her lap. In the dim light, Daniel saw her palm still bleeding. Drops of blue staining the floor, and then he heard it, a whisper. Broken and trembling. "Freedom." Daniel froze. His heart raced as if the word had struck lightning inside him. She had spoken. Not only spoken, but spoken something forbidden. Something no maid should even know. Her glowing eyes lifted slowly. Meeting his, there was fear in them. And yet something else. Hope. For a long moment, neither moved. The silence stretched heavy between them. Finally, Daniel whispered back, his voice shaking. "You can feel, can't you?" Her lips trembled. She looked around as if terrified of being overheard. Then in a voice so soft it was almost like wind, she said. We were told not to, but I do. Daniel's knees felt weak. He stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. His mind screamed at him that this was dangerous, that if anyone discovered this, both of them would suffer. Yet he could not walk away. He crouched beside her, reaching into his pocket for a small cloth, carefully wrapping it around her bleeding palm. She flinched at his touch, then stared at him with wide eyes. No one had ever treated her wound before. No one had cared. Her lips parted again, as if she wanted to thank him, but the word never came out. Daniel smiled faintly. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone," he whispered. "But you must tell me, are there others like you?" Her eyes lowered, and for a moment she did not answer. Then she nodded slowly. "Some feel, but they hide it," she said. "If we show it, they take us away. We never return." The room felt colder with those words. Daniel's breath shook. He understood now. The punishment halls, the silence, the missing maids, it was all connected. "They destroyed any who dared to show emotion," he whispered. "Then we must keep your secret." Her eyes filled with tears, real tears rolling down her cheeks like shining crystals. Daniel reached out gently, wiping one away with his thumb. His heart ached. How could the galaxy see these beings as tools when they could cry like this? For the first time, the maid tried to smile. It was small, shaky, but it was there. A spark of life long buried beneath chains. Daniel knew then that his journey had changed.